Once again, very good day to everybody present here, my dear students and young budding scientists. This is advanced programming practice, and what we have for today's session is a short introduction. We'll discuss about why we use Django, and we'll conclude it, how and why you use Django, and then we'll discuss something about the command line prompt, how you install the Python 3 version on the Mac OS X platform, how you install Python 3 on the Windows platform, how you install Python 3 on the Linux platform, virtual environments, installing Django, installing Git, text editors, and then I'll try to conclude the entire part. So this is especially for you, my dear students and young researchers, and you can reach me at dr.christoananth@gmail.com. So before beginning the session, never ever forget to thank God. As for me, I thank God for giving me this golden opportunity to deliver this useful session, to share my knowledge among my fellow national, international participants, students and young researchers. So this class will discuss why you use Django, what is the need, and how you use Django, and then we'll have an initial setup, the command line, how you install Python 3 on the Mac OS X platform, and how you install Python 3 on the Windows platform, and then the installation of Python 3 on the Linux, virtual environments, installing Django, and then installing Git, and then we'll have some description about the text editors, and then we'll conclude today's topics. Of course, we'll have some videos at regular intervals to explain the knowledge in our topics. If you can imagine Django, it's actually a web-based framework where we have a combination or maybe a collection of several tools that are going to perform a repetitive task. But if you observe its characteristics, it is inherent in web development. Whenever you have the basic functionality features, generally the Django is all about connecting to a database, or maybe you can connect and set up the URL routes, or maybe if you have to display the content. For example, if you have a newspaper app, or maybe Hello World app, okay, it is all about how you try to display the content on a web page, and then the authentication, privacy, and then security features that are associated with it. And what we are going to do is we are not going to start everything from the scratch, but what we are going to do, we are going to create some web-based frameworks through the use of programming languages. Okay, maybe you can use Django, or maybe Flask in Python, or maybe in the case of Ruby you use Rails. In the case of JavaScript you use Express, and you can do much more salient features with Django. So altogether we can summarize that this Django is having a batteries included approach, which means that everything is pre-planned, everything is inbuilt with this Django, which means that the user enjoys greater privacy, greater authentication, greater security with Django. And here we will have several inbuilt templates, inbuilt routes and views as well. And of course we have an admin panel or admin interface, and security features are at its best, and we have the support for multiple database backends as well. So the job is much easier with the case of the web developers, and we have all the functionality for creating a website. So just like the SQL or maybe the MySQL, we have um, the set of features that are very much essential for the web-based framework. Also, you can say in Django we have a micro framework approach, which means that several popular frameworks, maybe like Flask in Python or maybe Express in JavaScript, we have a micro framework, which means that everything comes handy within one particular area, or maybe everything comes handy within one particular folder. Okay, so which means that they provide bare minimum required for a simple web page, and it's all about the developer to install and configure the third-party packages in order to uh, make a similarity in the website functionality. So which means that the developer, even if he or she is a beginner, maybe they can make mistakes, they can correct the mistakes, and they can evolve better out of the project. So you can say, or maybe you can summarize that Django is the best choice for any developer. You can build some modern, robust web applications with very less amount of code, and you can say it is popular and under active development, and it has been screen tested with several other websites, and the functionality is better when you compare it with the other platforms. When you discuss about the initial setup, the command line, you can say that the command line is a powerful text-only view of your computer. So it's very easy to configure a Django project. Even you can run this one in Windows platform, in Linux platform, Mac OS platform also. If you take in the case of a Mac, the command line is generally found in a program called terminal, where you have like applications slash utilities. Okay, what you do, you open a new finder window, open the applications folder, and then in the bottom you can see the utilities folder, and then you can have a double click on the terminal. Okay, so this happens with the Mac platform, but in the Windows platform, maybe you can search for a partial application, which is actually a dedicated command line shell, and you can go through. So these are the 6 frequent commands in Django development. Like you have the cd, which is change down a directory, and then cd, which is change up a directory. For example, this cd is change down a directory, but cd dot dot means it is change up a directory, and then ls means it is going to list the files of your current directory. pwd means it is print working directory. mkdir, it is make directory, and then touch means you are going to access a file or maybe create a new file. Okay. So what you are going to do, you are going to open a command line and then use type dollar and then python. Okay, the version. Okay, so you can do it in this way. Okay, so this is how you type the commands in the Django development whenever you are going to type the programs. Yes, I'm hearing some background voice. Can you please so in the command line, maybe let us take in the case if we are working in a Mac platform, in the command line, maybe dollar, okay, cd is actually current directory, and then slash desktop. Okay, so which means that the current location, the desktop, is automatically added before the command line prompt. Okay, so in order to make sure that you are in the current location, maybe uh, maybe you can have the symbol, okay, slash desktop dollar pwd. Okay, so which means that you are going to print the working directory, and you will have the user slash wsv slash desktop. So even in the Mac computer, you can use this user called wsv. Maybe you can have your own name also. Okay. Okay. So what you do, you create a new directory folder with make directory, cd into it, and add a new file index.html. Okay. So desktop dollar make directory new folder, and desktop dollar cd the new folder. Okay. So what you do, you once again when you go with the make directory, and afterwards you change the directory to the new folder, and afterwards within this new folder you are going to access, or maybe you are going to create the index.html. Okay. So after doing this one, then you list the files. So you remember the command, it is ls. Okay, so within desktop new folder dollar ls. Okay, and then index.html. So this is how you going to list the files in the index.html. So afterwards you are going to go with the changing up a directory. So what you do, you use pwd to confirm the location. So within desktop new folder dollar cd dot dot, and then desktop $pwd, the print working directory, and then user slash the username wsv slash desktop. Okay, so this is how the advanced developers use the keyboard and the command line as well. So this practice is without using the mouse, even without uh, with the typing, it's very easy. So this is how you install the Python 3 on the Mac OS X platform. So maybe you can check whether you have installed Python 2 or maybe Python 3. Okay, so you can confirm this one by typing $Python version. Okay, so maybe like Python 2.7.15 it is being displayed. So if you type $Python hyphen version, then you will get the version. Okay. Maybe if you want to check whether Python 3 is being installed, maybe you can type $Python 3 hyphen version. So maybe if you have like maybe in the output you have like Python 3.7.6, let us take in the case, which means that the Python 3 version has been installed correctly. So this is the command line. So $xcode hyphen select hyphen install. So what you do, you click to the confirmation commands and then you can go with the installation features. So within USR and then bin ruby hyphen e. Okay, so you are going to go with this website github-user-content.com. Within that you go with the homebrew command and then within that install master and then install. Okay, so what you are going to do, you confirm this homebrew being installed correctly. So what you do, you go with $brew doctor, which means that your system is ready for startup or maybe brew. So the command line $brew install Python 3. So you can confirm the version Python 3 version. So it is Python 3.7.0. Okay. So it is going to run the Python commands directly in your computer. And you have like command line Python 3, Python 3.7.0. This is actually the default version which is being installed in your computer. Okay, and you can see this list of commands also, like type, help, copyright, credits or license. This is being automatically displayed. And in order to exit from this version, you press Control and then T. So it is going to exit out of the server. Okay, make sure you press the Control and T together. Even in the
I have one question.
tell me.
If we write code in Python 3.7 or 3.9,
Okay.
uh, can we run this code in Python 3.10? I mean, what is the differences between these versions?
Yeah, the
Main
version.
differences.
Yeah, main difference is that you make sure, first of all, you make sure that the version has been installed. Okay, if it is not being installed, you try to install the version and then you check whether the version has been installed or not. Okay, the version is that it supports several multi-functionality features. Just like imagine the case with the case of a video editor. Let us take in the case. Okay, maybe one video editor in the lower version will have some features, but not most of the features. For example, the functionalities with the case of the Hello World app, or maybe even the Django app, or maybe News app, we will have several functionalities like adding, posting comments, or maybe displaying the results accurately.
Mhm.
Even so, as the version goes up, you will have more extended features, and that's the reason they recommend you to use the higher versions.
Okay, okay, I got it.
Okay. So even you can run this Python shells with Python 2 also. Even in the lower versions also you can run them. But you can go with $Python. If you go with $Python, then you will get the version Python 2.7.15. Still, you make sure that this version you can run, or maybe you can create much more projects and you can display them accurately. So that's not an issue. Even with the installation of Python 3 on the Windows platform, uh, it's not being included as default in the Windows, but still you can check whether the version exists on the system. So what you do, you press the shift key and then right click on the desktop and you will have the open command window. So here in the open command window, maybe you type the following command like dollar python hyphen hyphen version. Okay, so you'll have the version python 3.7.0. So you have python 3.7.0 being displayed, means you can make sure that that particular version is being installed correctly. So what you do, you download the installer and you add the Python to the path, which means that it lets you use the Python directly from the command line. So in the command line, you type $Python the version, okay, Python 3.7.0, which means if it is working, means then it's done. Similarly, you can perform the same with the Linux platform even. Students, I request you that please mute yourself whenever you don't have any questions. Please mute your microphone if you don't have any questions. Please unmute them only if you have questions. Okay. So this is all about installation of Python 3 on the Linux platform. In order to compile the Python, first of all, you make sure that whatever installation has been done correctly. What are the tools that you have to install? Everything you have to plan it accordingly. Now the extra libraries that has to be installed. So make sure you do this all, and you first of all install it, the version, and then the development tools, and then the extra libraries. Okay. So these extra libraries are not actually needed to compile the Python, but it is an added advantage, because without them Python interpreter will be quite useless. So make sure you include all the tools and the libraries. So maybe if you want to make sure that the system is up to date, you type yum update. Okay, so even with the case of compilers or maybe the related tools, you go with yum group install -y the development tool. So you make sure that this development tools has been installed correctly, and then you go with yum install -y z library d level, and then b zip to develop the open SSL, uh, develop n curses, develop SQLite, develop read line, and then develop TKD level, GDBM develop, and then DB4 develop, libcap, the extra libraries which we have. Okay. Exec develop, and then expert develop. So make sure you install all the development tools, okay, and also the extra libraries. Okay, and afterwards you go with yum install -y wget. Okay, so these are the prerequisites that you have to install on the Linux platform. So once you make the installation of these development tools and the extra libraries, we can completely make sure that this Python interpreter um, will generally run the tasks. So after doing all this one installation of all these tools and the commands and the extra libraries, then you compile and install the Python. Okay, so within the Python 2.7.14, you go with wget the version. Okay, ftp/python 2.7.14. Within the version, you have Python 2.7.14 .tar.exe. Okay, so within the tar.exe Python 2.7.14 version, you go with the changing the directory, and you make the alt install the version. Okay, so even the same thing happens with 3.6.3 version as well. Same thing, wget the python.org ftp the version 3.6.3, python 3.6.3 tar.exe. Similarly, within that tar.xf the python, same thing I am repeating here, 3.6.3 tar.exe, and you are going to change the directory. Okay, right? And you go with the make make alt install. So this is how you download, compile, and install the Python in the Linux platform. And afterwards, after running all these commands, make sure the system version continues the same, and you have to strip the symbols as well. So in the 2.7 binary, you go with strip usr local library, the Python 2.7 version, and then even in the 3.6 binary, the command remains the same. So strip USR local library libpython 3.6 m the version. So the procedure remains the same. It is all about the Mac or maybe Windows or maybe Linux. Even with the case of after setting up all this one, the development tools and the changing the directory, you can go with the installation or upgradation of pip setup tools and wheel. So first of all, you get the script wget the bootstrap version uh, pypa.io, okay, get pip.py, and then you execute in the Python 2.7 version or maybe 3.6 version. So whatever version you are using, you can go with Python 2.7 get pip.py or maybe Python 3.6 version get pip.py. So after doing all this one, install the packager name and then install the upgrade version of the packager name, and then you can check after installing all this one, you can uninstall the package name. So what we are going to do, we are going to
It's
create.
about
Yeah, tell me.
it's about Django.
Yeah, yeah, Django.
I know that.
Yeah. So what you are going to do, you are going to create the first isolated Python environment. For example, let us take in the case you are using a lower version, Python 2.7. Maybe you can use installation of virtual in. Okay. So it's actually creating isolated Python environment. And for example, if you are using higher versions, you need not have virtual env because this functionality has already been built in this platform. So you need not have to use it separately, the virtual env function. And this Python environment, what you also call it as a sandbox, can have the Python versions as well as the packages. So you can use it in also in several different versions or maybe several other projects as well. So with the virtual env, it's a greater advantage. So installation of virtual env takes place like this in the case of Python 2.7 version. So pip 2.7 install virtual env. Okay, so within the virtual env you have the name of the project. It is my 27 project. Okay. And this is actually creation of my 27 project. And you can use the built-in functionality even in Python 3.6 version. Even you can go with Python 3.6. Straight away you go with -m, which is actually creation of virtual environment of my 36 project. And you can check the version Python hyphen version, and you are going to activate the my 27 project. Okay, so source my 27 project / bin activate. And once again you can check the Python version, Python hyphen version, and then suppose it is Python 2.7.14, it is working correctly, and you can deactivate as well. Similarly, with the case of my 36 project in 3.6 version, you can go with activation of my 36 project, source my 36 project /bin /activate, and you can check the version if the version is correct, and then you can deactivate as well. So this is how you create a isolated virtual environment. So virtual environment, it's a very important part. So you can say it's a isolated container which has all the software dependencies. So which means that we will have some query about. For example, let us take in the case you use multiple projects like project A and project B. Project A we have a version called Django 2.1, but project B is still on the earlier version 1.10. Let us take in this. But for this case, you should keep in mind that whenever you use multiple projects, make sure you use the virtual environment. So without virtual environment, it's going to be a big problem. So make sure you use the virtual environment. Else, you make sure the virtual environment has already been inbuilt in your version that you are trying to use. So you should use a dedicated virtual environment for each new Python project. And what you do, this virtual environment, you have the pip in function, which is similar to the npm or maybe the yarn function. It is going to create a pip file called pip file.lock, and you have some important characteristic of virtual environment, what you call it to be the determinism. Okay. So every time you download the software, you will have the same configuration. So that's a major advantage you have with the pip in function. With the case, you have the pip file.log. So here we have installed it correctly. So you install the pip in function as well. So for this, you go with pip3. Okay. Which the homebrew automatically installed for us alongside the Python 3 version. So you go with $pip3 install pip-in function. So this is how you go with the virtual environment. Pip3 install the virtual environment pip-env. And in order to see whether pip-in function works correctly, so you go with $cd /desktop, and then you go with the make directory Django, and then cd current directory the Django, and then make sure you use the pip-in function to install the Django, and then in the command line prompt you go with pip-in install Django the version 2.1, and then in the shell command we have the two files, pip file and pip file.log. Make sure it is being activated, so you go with $pip-in shell. Okay, so you will see that maybe if you are using in a Mac platform, maybe you can have a parenthesis in your command line. Okay, but in a Windows platform it doesn't have. So it will take the format of the directory name and the random characters. Maybe in the computer, you will see something different, maybe like Django hyphen, but end with a random series of characters. Okay. So you will run the Django hyphen admin. So you will have Django and then hyphen the version JM J1 NTQW. This is actually the virtual environment that you are working with, which means that if you are getting this one, which means that it is working. Now after getting this one, you go with the creation of a new project called test underscore project. So the Django hyphen the version within the brackets, and then you have Django admin. You go with the creation of new project, which is nothing but start project and then test underscore project. The test underscore project is actually the project name that you are going to create. So start project test underscore project. So if you have run this Django admin start project test underscore project, then it will create a directory structure. So make sure the directory remains the same, test project. Within the test project, you have managed.py, the server, and then within that again test underscore project, and then initialize the py file, settings.py file, urls.py file, and wsa.py file. So make sure the tree structure, it is somewhat repetitive, but make sure the files and folders are the same. Which means that we have created a new directory test underscore project, and within that manage.py file, and then again test underscore project. Which means that we are navigating in order to make sure that it is the right one, it is the authentic one. So that's the reason we repeat it. Okay. So by running the Django admin start project test underscore project, we will have manage.py test project. Within that test project, instead of repeating, you will go with initialization.py file, settings.py file, urls.py file, and wsgi.py. So you're going to confirm everything by running on the Django's local web server. So this is the Django, the virtual environment, the version. So $python manage.py run server. So this is how when you go with this one, okay, with this one manage.py run server, then you will get in 127.0.0.1:8000, you will see this message: the installation worked successfully. Congratulations, which means that the Django has been installed. And in order to stop the local server, in order to exit the local server, you press Control and then C simultaneously, and you can exit the virtual environment by typing the $exit command. Similarly, you can reactivate the virtual environment using pip-in shell at any point of time. So what you do, you install the packages with pip in and then activate them and then you can exit them. You can actually exit out of the virtual environment. Finally, comes an important part, which is installation of Git. So Git is considered to be a very important part whenever you have to go with a modern software development. Whenever you are going to display all the functionalities and make sure the the functionalities work properly as designed, you have to use the Git. So it's a version control system which is thought of as a a routine task schedule like maybe MS Word or maybe Google Doc. And with Git, you can collaborate with other developers. You can track your work via commits, and you revert to the previous version of the code. For the Mac platform, you can go similar to your homebrew platform. You can go with $brew install Git, and after going with this version, you can type in the command line. You can go with the console, type the following two lines, the name as well as the email address. So $git config the global username, your name, and then $git config the global user dot email, your name at email.com. So you can make sure you type all the necessary fields and you check whether the functionality works as designed. In the text editors, you can execute the commands, and here in the text editor, just as we saw in the video, we will write the code. Okay, but whatever text editor you can use to, okay, maybe in the command prompt you can type, you can use the text editor and you can run the text editor also. So here the experienced developers often use Vim or maybe Emacs platform, where both decades old or maybe text only editors will have a significant. So modern text editors, they combine the same powerful features with an appealing visual interface. So that's the reason you use a Visual Studio Code. It's actually free, very easy to install, and it is being widely used everywhere. So you can conclude that we have whatever we have done, the installation process, creation of new directory, changing to the new directory, making a new directory, starting a new project. Okay, the environment, now the virtual environment functions. Okay, pip file.log, everything what we are do, we have made made sure that we are starting the first Django app. So nobody likes configuring a local development environment, but it's just the one-time task that we are trying to do. Okay, so we make sure we have installed the latest version of the Python and the Git, and we can test the functionalities and we can get the